Welcome back, guys, to the Queen of TV channel. Now, some quick things before we get into our intro. Please watch the video to the very end and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Second, there will be cursing and profanity. If that's not your cup of tea, this channel is not for you. Lastly, I will be giving my honest opinion on the episode and the show as a whole. Without further ado, let's get into the intro. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, the Queen herself, and you are the Prince of Princesses. You either a subscriber or you are a viewer. Either way, welcome. Today we'll be talking about H2O Season 2, Episode 11, In Over Our Heads. I couldn't remember the episode at first. So we start this episode off with Rikki and Zane at the beach. Zane brings up the fact that there's this mysterious artifact that got lost on a yacht near Mako, and he wants Rikki to help him find it because there's a reward tied to it. He's doing it for the sake of trying to look like a hero, but Rikki may need the money for something, but it wouldn't hurt for him to have some kind of money. It's some nice allowance, I guess, for him. Rikki says no, but she changes her mind because we see her in the next scene with her dad revealing that he hasn't been able to pay the rent or cover the bills. So they may have to move. Rikki decides to meet Zane at the Juice Net Cafe where she tells him that she is in. She apparently wants to split the money where she would get the majority and he wouldn't. But he shows her how they would get it and where they could possibly find it. She assessed the situation and said there's no way she can do it by herself and it's not going to work with just the two of them. Zane suggests that she asks Emma and Cleo, which she agrees to. In the scene after Zane talks to Rikki in the beginning, we see that Emma and Cleo are at Emma's house, painting their nails, and Lewis walks in, doesn't knock anything, but he comes in. He wants to explain to the girls that despite all the changes, they can still rely on him. They bring up the fact that he is with Charlotte. Emma does. Emma also brings the fact that he took her out to Mako Island. Lewis argues that him and Charlotte are not together, that she's more of a companion. She's not actually what you would call a girlfriend. So he, again, does not want her. Lewis says that even though he took Charlotte out to Mako Island, they can still trust him because he knows. They know that he knows their secret. Emma says that Zane also knows their secret, but Lewis argues that they can't trust him. Before they can continue their conversation, Charlotte shows up. When Lewis asks her how she knew he was there, he finds out that his mother actually told her. So he must have told his mother before he left. And Charlotte says his mother tells him everything. So Charlotte says hi to Cleo, and Cleo says hi back, and she gets Lewis, and they go and leave because they got a beach date, I'm guessing. And Lewis tells the girls that to call him and that his phone will always be on. And they leave. So after Rikki and Zane talk, Rikki goes over to Emma's house to talk to them. She makes it sound like that Zane does not care about the artifact and that there's no reward tied to it and that she wants their help so they can find this artifact and put it in the museum. Cleo is on board because she feels that this artifact does deserve to be in a museum and it's not right that they're just going to leave it out there. Emma apparently is very hesitant though. Now, Rikki is able to convince him and they go to Juice That Cafe where Zane commits Rikki online, but Rikki says she didn't lie. She just didn't tell him about the money. Now, Emma does not feel good about this because Emma does not trust Zane 100%. They're doing this because of Rikki. And she tells Cleo this. And she also tells Cleo that maybe they should ask Lewis on the situation, but Cleo is not with asking Lewis, okay? Like I said in the previous assessment of the last episode, Charlotte has severed any trust that Cleo has in Lewis. Their friendship is dead right now. They don't have a friendship. She does not fully trust him. She's only cordial with him because he knows their secret. They are not as close as they used to be. He's on the fence with her. So she reminds Emma that Lewis has other interests right now and it's not them. So Cleo says that they're in. And Zane shows them everything that they're looking at, where they need to go, and he marked up this plan. Now, Emma isn't sure about the plan, and Zane says that he's open to any suggestions that she have that they could try. After looking at his work, Rikki says that Lewis is not the only one that knows anything about physics, and Cleo seconds that because, again, Cleo is not Team Lewis anymore. To be honest, it's really sad, but we're going to talk about that in the review. They go out to Mako Island where they start looking for this artifact. And at this point, they haven't found it yet. So they do end up regrouping. Lewis and Charlotte at the beach, and Lewis, for some odd reason, brings up the fact that he doesn't swim because Cleo does not swim and she won't go in the water. He says that she does a different type of swimming, which piques Charlotte's interest, and she's wondering, like, what other swimming does Cleo do? He's very vague about it, and she says that, they could enjoy the water. Doesn't mean they don't have to get in. They get in and they start having fun and everything. Well, when we cut back to the others, Emma wants to call Lewis because something does not feel right about this artifact. Cleo says that why do they need to tell Lewis and that she's not calling him. Emma says she will call him on Cleo's phone because she left her phone at home. Well, she tries to call Lewis, and Charlotte ends up hanging up on Emma and cutting his phone off. This has Cleo respond with the "so much for I am always here when you need me" is what Lewis had told them earlier. Obviously, this makes Lewis seem like he isn't reliable. That Zane is more reliable because guess what? Like Cleo had said at the Juice Net Cafe, she also said this, I didn't mention it, but she had reminded Emma that Lewis wasn't there. He wasn't at the Juice Net Cafe with them, he was with Charlotte. Lewis is not here. So obviously he has other things he would rather be doing, like living his life elsewhere. He doesn't care about them anymore. He made that clear in the 10th episode after what he said to them. So obviously, Lewis is not looking like he's a part of the group anymore. Like he's abandoned them. So they trust Rikki's assessment of the situation and are allowing Zane to do this. So this is what Cleo was talking about. That's why she said so much for I'm always here when you need me. He's not there. So they continue looking for the artifact. They still cannot find it, and they're starting to get a bit tired. So the two of them start to go up to the surface because Rikki is still looking. Rikki eventually comes up and talks to Zane, and Emma and Cleo overhear Zane mention something about the reward. Emma tells Rikki to come with them, but Rikki reveals that she knew about the reward the entire time and that she actually lied to them. The two of them leave, and when they get to Mako Island, Emma is rightfully pissed that Emma lied to them and that Zane was able to trick them. Leo is worried that they left Rikki by herself because anything could happen to her, but Emma's like, Rikki made her choice. They go to Juice Day Cafe where Cleo is trying to believe that Rikki would not actually intentionally lie to them. Lewis does show up, and they do bring up the fact that his phone was off. He doesn't believe it at first until he checks, and then he realizes his phone is off, and he tells them that he's sorry and was it important. They say no, but he's able to convince them to tell them anyway. And we see that in the next scene that he tells them that they shouldn't have trusted Zane, but they said they didn't trust Zane, they trusted Rikki. So Charlotte shows up, and asked Lewis, she was looking for him. Where's he been? And he said he was catching up with the others, like finding out what they were doing today. And Charlotte asked what they were doing today, and it's not like they could tell her. So they end up talking about how they spent time together. And Charlotte takes a jab at Cleo out of fucking nowhere. And that's another problem I got with her. Like, you're with the fucking guy. Why you gotta keep taking fucking jabs? Clearly and obviously you want to prove a point. So she brought up the fact that Lewis said that she was scared of the water. He didn't say that. He said she didn't swim. But she's making fun of her about being scared of water, which is very ironic considering what we'll find out later in the season of what Charlotte is afraid of. Leo claps back her and says that, you gotta be careful in the water because something could pull you under the water. Basically, she just threatened Charlotte's life. But, it's not here or there. All of this is going on. Rikki finally finds the artifact and she tells Zane, and they start preparing to lift the trunk up. Zane's worried about Rikki because she looks tired, and he said they could always come back, but Rikki refuses, saying that she can handle this and she can do this, and it's just one more dive and then it's done. Well, everything goes wrong. It breaks off and it ends up falling on top of Ricky's head. Zane notices that Rikki has not come back up. He goes down there where he finds her unconscious. He's able to pull her back to the surface and he calls Emma and tells her what happened. Emma gets the phone call and says that Rikki has been hurt. Her, Cleo, and Lewis go to leave. Charlotte stops Lewis, telling him that he's always chasing after the girls. Lewis realizes that Charlotte is the one that turned his phone off and says that that's probably why she turned his phone off. She tries to argue that she was just trying to prevent them from ruining him having a good time, but Lewis tells her that it was important. She says that, well, they survived and Lewis still was going to leave, and he told her that they need me, leaving her there by herself. Lewis makes it out to Mako Island where they are surrounded with Rikki, who is still very unconscious. He brings smelling salts, and at first it's not working, but then after a few minutes it begins to work, and Rikki wakes up. They're all relieved. They go to Emma's where Rikki tells them what everything that happened before she got knocked out, basically. Emma is blaming Zane for this, but Rikki tells the truth that she's the one that did all the pressuring because she needed the money. That's why she lied to them. That's why she was so willing to help Zane find this. Her dad cannot cover the rent. He cannot cover the bills, and they need the money. And the reason why she didn't ask him to help is because her and her dad don't take charity. There's a pride issue. Don't want to ask for help because it looks like charity. It looks like they can't do anything for themselves. That's pride. Well, Lewis has a good idea in helping Zane with his physics problem and trying to make little tweaks to it, and they end up finding the chest themselves and is able to lift it up. They turn in the reward and Zane gives it to Rikki. They are at Ricky's house when this happens. Zane and Rikki and Cleo and Emma are there, and they're waiting on Lewis, who is late, but he comes with the check of money. Cleo believes that Lewis is too busy right now because he's with Charlotte, but Lewis says that she can actually wait. They give Rikki the check, and at first she doesn't want to take it, but they remind Rikki that she's the one that did all the hard work, and Lewis says there is a such thing as danger money, considering she got a big giant gash on her forehead and could have died. She eventually accepts the check and is happy that everybody pitched in to help her. They have a group hug, which does not involve Cleo because she does not involve herself in the group hug. Well, the episode ends with them having a nice moment together around the grill. And we see Zane and Rikki hug. Now, let's talk about this. We're going to get the elephant out of the room. And the elephant out the room is mostly from the comments that I've looked at. more people were talking about Rikki and Zane than anything. So we're going to talk about Cleo because there were a few comments about this. Um, Cleo is being the way she is with Lewis, like I said in the previous episode. Charlotte got what she wanted, and now Cleo has no trust towards Lewis, and she does not believe in Lewis's loyalty. Now that is very understandable because Lewis has been saying the whole time that if Charlotte gets close to Lewis, she gets close to this secret. That was truth in that. It wasn't a lie. It also has something to do with the fact that um Cleo and Lewis obviously still like each other, so obviously that plays a part in it. But the real reason why Cleo was upset is because Charlotte obviously manipulated her so she could spend time with Lewis. And Lewis didn't see an issue and a problem with that. Let alone he took her out to Mako Island and got pissy with them. And then there was the kiss. So it's like everything into one. Like Lewis now apparently looks like a liar because he's been trying to say all this time that him and Charlotte were just friends, but now the kiss they had contradicts that. They can't be friends. So that means that Charlotte was telling the truth when she kept saying that her and Lewis spending time together and they were getting close. Second, Lewis took her out to Mako Island. He know full damn well why she should not have been out there, but he took her out there anyway. And then the last thing, Lewis trusted Charlotte and had more loyalty to her than he did his friends. Which obviously, yes, Lewis has loyalty to them too. But what I mean, the loyalty that I'm talking about is that he believed Charlotte's version and her words and tr- believed she generally cared more about him than the girls did, that he chose her side and stood up to them for her sake. Well, he ended up immediately regretting that, of course. He realized that he was manipulated and he realized he was lied to. And he in this episode is trying to make up for that. He's proving that, hey, look, I'm still here for you guys. It doesn't matter who I'm dating. You guys come first. Well, we see all that get contradicted, and that's no fault of Lewis's. That's because Charlotte keeps involving herself. Because though Lewis saying, hey guys, I can be there for you, when Emma does call to get his help, Charlotte turns his phone off. So he never knows that they actually called him. And we see that she's preventing him from actually being near his friends. This again is a form of abuse. She's trying to isolate him from his friends. And a lot of people that go through domestic abuse, their friends look at them changing when they date somebody because they don't seem to have the time of the day to be there for their friends. So it's making it seem like Lewis isn't really truly there for them anymore now that he's with Charlotte. He has a normal, ordinary girlfriend. He doesn't have time to be helping mermaids. Obviously, Emma still is showing that she's become the new Cleo. Like Cleo was in season 1 when Emma and Rikki kept saying that Lewis is breaking their trust and everything else, but Cleo kept defending him, saying that they should continue trusting Lewis. Now Emma is in Cleo's position, and Cleo and Rikki are in her and Ricky's position, because now Emma and Cleo have swapped places. Emma still believes that they can trust Lewis, that maybe they should ask for his help, but Cleo no longer trusts Lewis, so the tide has turned. So it's not that Lewis is trying to prove that he is still there for them and that even if he's in this relationship, he could still be their reliable friend, because that's not going to be easy task to do. But he more so needs to prove to Cleo that he is still her best friend, that he hasn't betrayed her, he does still care about her, and he is there when she needs him. That he's not abandoning her like everybody else, because let's be fair here, her mom abandoned her. Her dad is not around as much as he can, and she's stuck with Kim. Kim is a nightmare. Rikki is barely around ever since she got back with Zane, and Emma right now is the only person she has a constant relationship with. But once she starts dating her boyfriend, she's going to be inconsistent with Cleo as well. So it's like Cleo is being abandoned by everybody around her that used to be there because everybody else has a life and everybody else is deviating away from Cleo. So now Cleo sees Lewis deviating away from her to be with Charlotte, and he's trying to prove that's not the case. I would like to point out that Lewis sit here and denied that Charlotte was his girlfriend and said that she was more of a companion. So basically, she was just a girl he is hanging out with, basically. He has not claimed her as a girlfriend. But they are technically dating. But he's saying that to his friends. And she's not there. So I want to know what would have happened if she had heard him say this. What would her response be to that? Now, Cleo will eventually trust Lewis again. She will eventually, uh, in a way, forgive him and be like more open to trusting him and like trying to solidify their friendship. But for right now, that ain't gonna be the case. But we'll get to that episode when her and Lewis officially like are friends again. This is like legit the 5 stages of grief. Where one of the stages was anger. Lewis expressed that anger in the 10th episode, obviously due to him being manipulated, but like everything that was boiled over inside of him since his breakup with Cleo. But now it's Cleo that's got anger. She's dealing with that because not only is she angry and resentful to him for like literally lying and abandoning them and like doing the most disloyal thing in the world by taking Charlotte to Waco Island, but she's also mad at herself about the breakup and the fact that she let Charlotte manipulate her and that she trusted Lewis the way that she did. So she's going through that right now, and she's gonna go through that for a little bit. But I think that her and Lewis will eventually they will eventually get cordial. Well, I'm saying that knowing full well I know what's going to happen next. They are going to get cordial. And then they're going to be friends again. Now, with Rikki's situation with her being poor, um this again, like from episode 8, is what I was talking about. Because of where she lives and how she's grown up, her family has pride. Her dad literally does not accept charity. Dude, y'all behind on the bills. It's nothing wrong with asking people for help. And I know you don't want to sit there and have to be indebted to somebody, but like it's like if you got friends that's willing to lend you some money, like take that. Don't sit there and be like, I don't need the help, like I'll just figure it out. Do not do this. Anybody, I don't care if you're poor or not, I don't care if you're in debt, if somebody is willing to give you some money and you know there's no strings attached, please help. Please let that person help you. But I can understand why Rikki wouldn't do that. Not everybody, or at least people in general, do not want to sit here and feel like they have to depend on somebody else to pay their bills when they should pay their own bills. And it might be due to the fact that he is a single parent and he feels that he's the adult and he's supposed to be the provider and he should have to provide a home and a roof over his daughter's head, and he's failing at that. So it might not be fully pride, it might be embarrassment. He's embarrassed is what it is. And Rikki's also embarrassed because we know she's embarrassed by her family situation, their finance situation. But, you know, that's just an issue that's going to be a problem for Rikki. for the rest of her life. Not for the rest of her life, but like going forward in this series. But I understand it. I think it's foolish not to ask for help, but I can understand that it's somebody else's choice. If that's how they want to live, that's how they want to live. You can't really judge nobody on that fact. Now, that brings us to Charlotte this episode. Okay? Do I want to talk about this now, or do I want to give this conversation to y'all in her Charlotte video? I think I'm going to save it for the Charlotte video. I will say this. This petty shit that she's doing towards Cleo is one of the 20 things. And there's 20. I'm not capping. I'm not lying. There's 20 reasons. One of the 20 things that has caused her never to be friends with the three of them when she could have been. Why her and Lewis broke up, and why she had the outcome that she had in the finale towards the end. But that is the reason why. This is one of 20 reasons. Her needing to prove a point to Cleo is one of the things. It was very uncalled for her to sit there and make fun and a joke about Cleo not being able to swim because she's afraid of the water, which there are people who have a phobia to water who cannot swim in the water and don't. So it's very insensitive of her to do something like that. But I'll get more into that when we get to the episode and we find out what she's afraid of, which is my most hated episode. God, I cannot stand this episode of season 2. But everything else I want to talk about, I will talk about in her video. So until then, you guys have a blessed day. You have a wonderful day. And if no one saw you today, I'm telling you, I love you. Because you already know this is not the last time we'll see each other. I know I did not talk that much about this episode, but I think I was very clear about Rikki's situation and why Rikki thinks the way that she does in the 8th episode. And I'm pretty sure everyone understands why Cleo is just mad at Lewis in this episode. All I can say is, now that we're at the climax point of episode 10, the whole pyramid thing, the rise, the climax, the fall, the conflict resolution, we have reached the top of the mountain. It's going down the slope from here, and it's only going to go up from here. So it's meaning good things are going to start happening. Because I will have to commend Lewis for this. He stood his ground. He told Charlotte what it was at the very end, and he was there for Rikki when she needed him. But like I said, we'll talk more on that in Charlotte's video. So until the end, that's all I got for y'all. Bye, guys. See you in the next one.